Hey there, curious minds. Welcome to an episode of I Wonder, the show where we explore the questions you've been wondering about. Today's question comes from Ethan. Ethan asked, why do planes leave white trails in the sky? That's a high-flying question, Ethan. Those streaks in the sky might look mysterious, but they have a lot to do with science, weather, and even jet engines. Let's climb to cruising altitude and uncover the secret of those white trails known as contrails.
Wow.
What are contrails? Contrails, short for condensation trails, are the white lines you often see behind airplanes flying at high altitudes. They form when hot exhaust from the plane's engine meets the cold, thin air in the upper atmosphere. Airplane engines burn fuel, which produces water vapor as part of the exhaust. When this warm, moist exhaust mixes with the frigid air, which can be as cold as -40 degrees, the water vapor freezes into tiny ice crystals. These ice crystals are what we see as contrails. You can think of contrails as being similar to your breath on a cold winter day. When you exhale, the warm moisture from your breath condenses into tiny droplets in the chilly air, forming a mist. In the sky, the process is the same, but instead of mist, you get ice crystals forming a visible trail. Why do contrails look different? If you've watched planes fly, you might have noticed that some contrails disappear quickly, while others stretch out and linger for hours. The difference comes down to the temperature and humidity of the air where the plane is flying. When the air is dry, the contrails dissipate quickly because the ice crystals evaporate into the surrounding air. On the other hand, if the air is humid, the contrails can stick around and even spread out to form thin, wispy clouds. This process shows how contrails are closely linked to weather conditions in the upper atmosphere. Pilots and meteorologists can even use contrail behavior to gather clues about the humidity and wind patterns at high altitudes. Are contrails harmful? Contrails themselves aren't harmful. They're made up of ice crystals and pose no direct danger to people or the environment. However, when contrails linger and spread, they can trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere, contributing to a phenomenon called radiative forcing. This effect is similar to how clouds at night keep the Earth warmer by acting like a blanket. Scientists are studying how contrails might contribute to global warming over time, given the sheer number of flights crisscrossing the globe daily. To address this, engineers are developing more efficient airplane engines and alternative fuels to reduce emissions and minimize aviation's environmental impact. Do all planes leave contrails? No, not all planes leave contrails, and even those that do might not leave them on every flight. Whether a plane produces a contrail depends on several factors, including altitude, temperature, and humidity. Planes flying at lower altitudes where the air is warmer typically don't create contrails because the exhaust doesn't cool quickly enough to form ice crystals. Most contrails occur at cruising altitudes, usually between 26,000 and 40,000 feet, where the air is cold and thin. Are contrails the same as smoke? Contrails might look like smoke trailing behind a plane, but they're very different. Smoke is made up of tiny solid particles from combustion, while contrails are made up of ice crystals. The white color of contrails comes from the way sunlight scatters through the ice crystals, just like it does in natural clouds. This scattering of light makes contrails appear bright and white, even though they're essentially frozen water. How long have planes been making contrails? Contrails aren't a modern phenomenon. They've been around since the early days of aviation. During World War II, fighter planes and bombers flying at high altitudes often left contrails, which could reveal their positions to the enemy. Pilots learned to adjust their flight paths to avoid creating contrails in sensitive missions, showing how even simple atmospheric science could make a huge difference in strategy. Today, with thousands of flights crisscrossing the globe every day, contrails have become a familiar part of modern aviation, often streaking the sky with their icy trails. Here's some fun facts about contrails. Contrails aren't just fascinating to watch, they can also help scientists study the atmosphere. By observing how contrails form and behave, researchers can gather information about temperature, humidity, and wind patterns at high altitudes. Occasionally, contrails form unusual shapes like loops or spirals when planes make sharp turns or holding patterns. These patterns, though rare, add a whimsical touch to the science behind contrails. So, Ethan, why do planes leave white trails in the sky? It all comes down to the interaction between hot exhaust from airplane engines and the cold, thin air at high altitudes. These contrails, made up of tiny ice crystals, are like nature's way of painting the sky with the byproduct of flight. Whether they disappear quickly or stretch out into wispy clouds, contrails are a fascinating reminder of the science at work above our heads. Thanks again to Ethan for such a high-flying question. And remember, if you have a question you're curious about, submit it on our website, iwonderpodcast.com. And we might just feature it in our next episode of I Wonder. Until next time, stay curious and keep wondering.